And welcome to the Tuesday night edition of First Alert Weather Now here in the TV9 Weather Lab. I'm meteorologist Corey Thompson.
And I'm meteorologist Hannah Messier.
That's your nightly look at your First Alert forecast in a little bit more depth than we have time to allow us on a normal, typical newscast. We'll give you a little extra, and we're going to give you a little extra look inside a question submitted by one of the viewers here in Eastern Iowa.
That's right. Our question today is about some severe weather, so we'll get to think about that a little bit later on.
Yeah, for sure. And it's only thoughts because it really is quiet right now if you're concerned about the next couple days.
We're wishing for rain here in the Weather Lab.
Yeah, fingers crossed, but probably not going to see much, right?
Nope, that's not what is on our What You Need to Know this evening. We have kind of a cool start to Wednesday morning, though, so that's something to kind of look forward to. At least it'll feel like fall in the morning. Now, it is going to be a little bit windy on our Wednesday, too, so you're going to want to make sure your Halloween decorations are secure. And unfortunately, precipitation is looking pretty bare. There's no rain in the 9-day forecast, which means your sprinklers will definitely need to get a little bit of a workout. On our satellite and radar, though, you'll notice some cloud cover in the Midwest, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa. That cloud cover is mainly upper level cloud cover, so still some clear skies, some stars able to peek in between those once the sun sets. Now in our evening planner tonight, temperatures dropping into the 40s, 47 degrees at midnight, dropping into the 40s by 6 a.m. with winds out of the southwest 5 to 10. And like we've mentioned lots and lots of times, just look how dry it is. Just no rain. Absolutely anywhere. Unfortunately, that is going to be the case for a little bit, Corey.
It does look that way, and we'll get into more detail about why and how long that may last coming up in just a little bit. But it is, again, as we've noted, great news for things going on around Eastern Iowa. So meteorologist Joe Winters has today's forecast for fun.
For a day, at least, it felt like October, but as we head through the next several days, as you've heard, warmer weather will be with us, and that'll provide some perfect weather for your forecast for fun. Let's go ahead and take a look at the biking forecast next several days. Still a bit breezy on Wednesday, but if you shifted your route on Tuesday, shifted back on Wednesday, the winds will come from the south. A northeast breeze builds on Friday, cools us back down into the mid-70s. Pumpkin patch forecast for Tuesday was fantastic because it felt like pumpkin weather. We're going to warm things up. On Wednesday, it's nice and dry. On Thursday, a few more clouds. We'll look for 81 degrees. Chocolate Walk and Shop. It's in Marion. That's this Thursday from 6 to 9. It's going to be, again, very nice. Probably some partly cloudy skies. Temperatures in the 50s. Maybe a light jacket. Don't forget Beers in the Barnyard. That's out at Old McDonald's Farm in Cedar Rapids. Also on Thursday, runs from 5 to 8. Live music, wine, beer sampling, picnic meal, bonfires, and a silent auction. Southeast winds expected at 5 to 10. Pumpkin Fest and Way Off. It's in Anamosa this weekend. Parade, car show, 5K, 79 degrees, mostly sunny skies. That all gets underway Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning. Of course, it is the big Oktoberfest celebration in the Amanas. Everything begins on Friday with 76. Parade on Saturday with a high of 80. And to round out Oktoberfest on Sunday, we'll see 78 degrees. It's going to be a beautiful week for forecasts for fun.
Now, your First Alert forecast with meteorologist Corey Thompson.
And the month of September is in the books. Look at how warm it was for most of it, and all those numbers add up to an above normal month. About 5.9 degrees above average in terms of our highs throughout the course of the month. Same as we saw the lows, but the lows weren't quite as extreme. That kind of owed to an overall dry atmosphere. Drier air cools off pretty good, so we were closer to our averages there at 53.9 degrees, but those highs, dry air also warms up a lot easier, and that's why those high temperatures were so far off. Now, precipitation at Cedar Rapids was just a trace. That is over 3 1/3 inches below normal, and if you compare everyone else around Eastern Iowa, things were pretty hard to come by just about everywhere. Waterloo, the wettest, at 44 100ths of an inch, that is. Iowa City just 3 100ths, Dubuque 8 100ths. Some of the driest Septembers we've ever seen, some of the driest months we've ever seen in Cedar Rapids, Dubuque, and Iowa City. Let's actually take a look at Cedar Rapids in particular. This dry streak has been pretty significant, 32 straight days with nothing more than a trace of rain. We got 3 days in September that had a trace at the Eastern Iowa airport officially. When you look back in history over 120 plus years, the longest streak of a trace or less was in 1952 from September to November. So kind of the same time frame of year. Similar streaks have been fairly lengthy and mainly either falling late in the year or early. A couple of February starts there in 1988 and 1933. So it can happen just about any time of the year. It's more favored, of course, during those drier months. Now, as we look ahead over the next 24 hours, precipitation, as Hannah discussed, is out of the picture, but winds will be back. We're actually going to see things get a little gusty again during the afternoon hours of your Wednesday, much like we've seen today. Winds still blowing a little bit at this hour, still coming from the northwest at about 5 to 15 miles per hour. Those will continue to get lighter as we head through the night. 64 degrees right now in Cedar Rapids, 63 in Washington after a day that didn't crack the 70s in many parts of eastern Iowa. Area of high pressure giving us that very quiet weather, though. This is going to be in control of our forecast picture here over the next 24 to 36 hours before it begins to move on. So your first alert forecast overnight, temperatures around 42 degrees in Waterloo, 42 in Washington, mostly clear skies expected. As we look at pinpoint futurecast, expect things to stay at least a little cloudy initially tonight, but then by tomorrow morning, more sunshine and that southerly breeze kicks in. With those southerly winds, we're actually expecting things to be warmer again for Wednesday. Now by Wednesday night, we'll see a couple of clouds and things should cool off pretty efficiently again with this dry air mass around. Temperatures well into the 70s for your first alert forecast for Wednesday, 75 in Fayette, 78 in Oskaloosa. This is still several degrees above normal, pretty similar to where we have been lately around eastern Iowa. And it's those winds that will be a pretty big factor during the afternoon, those gusts between 20 to 30 miles per hour. Now your 9-day involves temperatures that will stay warm on Thursday, a little bit cooler Friday, and then we kind of do this tug of war over the next couple of days after that. A little bit up, a little bit down. Overnight lows generally staying a little bit on the cooler side in comparison because of the dry air again. One more note, tomorrow fire danger is going to be a little bit up because of how dry things have been, and with that wind and those low dew points, all of those factors combined. So be careful with open burning outside, perhaps just avoid it. And of course, farmers out in the fields, we've actually seen a couple of examples of fields or combines catching fire in this type of weather, so also be mindful of that.
Actually, in the weather lab earlier, we were talking about how crazy it is that our dew points are so low just right now.
Yeah, they're down in the 20s right now, which is extremely dry air considering how it was still cooler today, but still warm-ish, right? 70 degrees or so. Yeah, it's a big spread between those two numbers.
Quite a big spread. But now we're going to switch topics a little bit. Danny has asked this week's weather-wise question. Danny, go ahead and ask.
How big was the largest hailstone ever recorded?
Thank you so much for that question, Danny. Now, the biggest hailstone ever recorded was actually recorded in Vivian, South Dakota on July 23rd, 2010. It was quite a big hailstone with a diameter of 8 inches, a circumference of over 18 inches, and it weighed almost 2 pounds. Just very big hailstone. Hailstones like this are very rare, but we're going to go over how hailstones like this form. Now, hail forms inside, of course, our thunderstorms clouds, and the stronger the storm, the bigger the hail sizes will be, because strong storms have strong updrafts. Now, updrafts is the wind going into the storm from the ground, from the bottom. So it goes from the bottom of the cloud to the top of the cloud. Now, there are lots of frozen water droplets inside that cloud that are swept up higher into the cloud by the updrafts. So as those water droplets go above the freezing level, are pushed higher and higher by the updraft, it starts to form the hailstone. The water droplets start to freeze. And as the water droplets continue to bounce above the freezing level and then below the freezing level, we get more and more little layers of ice that accumulate on that hailstone. And eventually the hailstone gets so big that gravity is going to be stronger than our updraft, and therefore once gravity is stronger than the updraft, it falls to the ground. So the bigger the hailstone, the stronger the updraft and the stronger the storms, which is why hailstones like the one we had in Vivian, South Dakota are just so rare. Of course, you can ask more questions on weather-wise by submitting videos to kcrg.com/unews.
And thank you, Hannah. It's a good thing those big hailstones aren't as common because that can do a little bit of damage. Now, over the next few days, Don't worry about thunderstorms or hailstones or anything like that. In fact, it's going to be very, very quiet. We're going to keep things from getting all that warm as we look ahead over the next few days, which is one thing to look forward to there. Instead, our dew points are going to stay fairly low. Extremely dry air. We talked about those dew points this evening in the 20s, not escaping the 30s on Wednesday. Now, they will bounce up and down a little bit as we go into the weekend. Dew points may get back into the 50s by Saturday. That comes with some warmer temperatures by then, and so that could influence how things feel by then as well. Now, as we go into the weekend, we're going to have some more windy days ahead too. Friday, some winds out of the north or northeast, bringing in some slightly cooler air by a matter of degrees, but by Saturday and Sunday, both southerly and then northerly winds kick in, and it's going to be that discrepancy between the two that determines which way our temperatures will be headed. So that 82-degree reading on Saturday with the southerly winds, as northerly winds kick back in, we're talking highs back into the 70s, maybe some 60s, and those overnight lows closer to 40. So there is something to point to here on the 9-day, but again, if you're looking for rain, it's not there. A lot more sun than even cloudy skies next week. We'll have so little moisture in the atmosphere, it's actually going to be tough to find much in the way of cloud cover. Yeah, so very quiet week ahead, which is no shock, I guess, given the way things have been over the past little while.
I think what stands out to me the most is that we still have 80s in the 9-day. So the temperatures in the 9-day haven't been changing, but that normal high has been going down. So normal high this time of year, upper 60s, but it's going to be 82 on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way to think about it. We've seen not as hot of weather in some cases as we saw like in the middle of September, but the discrepancy compared to normal is about the same because that normal high, like you said, continues to slip cooler and cooler. Our air temperatures just aren't following the trend yet.
We'll just have to see when and if fall arrives.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you for arriving with us here tonight and joining us here on First Alert Weather Now. We'll be back again, same time tomorrow, same place. Have a great night.